June 1999, Huntsville, Alabama. Inside NASA's network, something is wrong. Unknown processes are running. Files are moving on their own. Buried within them, code tied to ISS life support systems, oxygen, temperature, survival. No one knows who's inside. At the same time, deep within the Pentagon's Defense Threat Reduction Agency, a silent program is harvesting emails, logins, passwords from some of the most sensitive systems on Earth. The FBI assumes a nation-state, Russia, China, a high-level cyber unit. They're chasing the wrong enemy because the person inside both networks isn't a government. He's 15 years old, alone in his bedroom. Online, he calls himself Comrade. How does a teenager, with no clearance, no resources, and no institutional backing, break into systems inside NASA and a Department of Defense agency? And more importantly, why didn't any of it stop him? To understand what happened, you need to understand the targets. NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center isn't a public system. It supports software tied to life aboard the International Space Station, managing oxygen, temperature, and pressure in real time. Any disruption could affect critical conditions in orbit. Access is tightly controlled, monitored, and layered with security. Then there's the Pentagon's Defense Threat Reduction Agency, focused on nuclear, biological, and chemical threats. Its systems are encrypted, restricted, and designed to resist intrusion, yet not flawless. Breaching one would be a major security crisis. Breaching both, undetected at the same time, should have been impossible. In 1999, it was. Jonathan James grew up in Miami around computers. His father was a programmer, but he went deeper than normal use. He studied how systems worked at their core. While others played games, he analyzed them, breaking down their structure and logic. Online, he used the name Comrade and became active in IRC hacker communities, where he built a quiet reputation. He was patient, methodical, and drawn to systems that were difficult to access. Money wasn't the goal. Challenge was. By 1999, he was 15. No formal training, no team, no government ties. Just time, a Linux machine, and a level of skill that didn't match his age. Picture a web of thousands of connected machines, not a single fortress, but a living network. NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center operated as part of exactly that kind of interconnected structure. Servers at different facilities communicated constantly, sharing data, syncing files, passing credentials across nodes. Think of it like a highway system, efficient for moving traffic, but also efficient for spreading anything unwanted. Access to one machine didn't just give you that machine. It gave you a view into the roads connecting all the others. The Defense Threat Reduction Agency worked similarly. Its internal network carried classified email traffic, personnel login credentials, and defense strategy communications. Data moved constantly between users with varying levels of clearance, from analysts to administrators to senior officials. Both networks shared one structural reality. They were built on hardware and software that had not been updated consistently, servers running outdated operating systems, routers, the core infrastructure directing network traffic, left unpatched for years. In cybersecurity terms, both systems were not just open. They were broadcasting their weaknesses to anyone who knew where to look. The weakness was not sophisticated, it was neglect. NASA's network included servers running Bind, a domain name service software, on a version that had a publicly documented vulnerability. The flaw had been known for months, a patch existed, no one had applied for it. At the Pentagon's Defense Threat Reduction Agency, a Cisco router sitting at the center of the network was running an outdated operating system version. The vulnerability was listed in public security databases. It had been there for years, no one had acted on it. Some accounts from the period also indicate that certain accounts across both networks were still protected by passwords so weak they offered almost no barrier. Weak or poorly managed credentials on systems handling national security data. The weakness, in one sense. Critical government systems were running known, patchable vulnerabilities that no administrator had ever fixed. The systems were not broken, they were simply ignored. Jonathan didn't jump straight into government systems, he worked his way up. For months, he immersed himself in IRC hacker communities, learning techniques like buffer overflows, packet sniffing, and network scanning, tools used to find weaknesses, intercept data, and gain access. But he didn't just study them, he practiced. One early target was Bell South, where he moved quietly through systems, testing methods rather than stealing data. It was a rehearsal. His setup was simple, a custom Linux machine and scanning tools. He followed one rule: never stay at the same level. Every system he entered was just preparation for something harder. The first target was a NASA server linked to the Marshall Space Flight Center. Jonathan began where every intrusion begins, listening. Using network scanning tools on his Linux machine, he probed NASA's external-facing servers, looking for open ports, active services, and anything running software older than it should be. Within the results, one server stood out. It was running outdated server software with a known vulnerability, domain name service software with a publicly documented flaw. A flaw, reportedly, that had been known for months. A flaw that had a patch available. A flaw no one had noticed. He had his entry point. Launching the exploit was a precise, high-stakes action. One wrong move, a mistimed command or an unexpected security response, and the attempt would fail. Worse, it could trigger an alert. He ran the exploit against the bind vulnerability. It worked. He was in, but only partially. He had limited access, the equivalent of standing in a lobby with locked doors on every side. He needed more. From that initial foothold, Jonathan began probing for a path to root, the highest level of authority on any Unix-based system. Root access means no restrictions, no closed doors, full control over every file, every process, every user account on the machine. According to later accounts, he quickly escalated his access using another vulnerability. The server's operating system was outdated and contained a known local vulnerability. He exploited it. He was now the system's highest authority. Root access on one machine was not the goal. It was the key. NASA's network connected its servers to each other, and Jonathan, now operating with administrator-level control on the first machine, began moving laterally. Trusted connections between servers that were designed to make NASA's operations run smoothly became pathways for him to walk through, one machine at a time. He reportedly made his way through 13 NASA computers before stopping. And then, buried in the file system of one of those machines, he found it. Source code. For the International Space Station's environmental control systems, the software manages oxygen levels, temperature, and atmospheric pressure aboard a station with astronauts living inside it. He downloaded it. The breach went undetected initially. The breach reportedly went undetected until anomalies surfaced later. When investigators confirmed what had occurred, NASA shut down affected systems for approximately 21 days to conduct a full audit. The remediation cost was reportedly around $41,000, while the value of the stolen source code was later estimated at approximately $1.7 million. After NASA, Jonathan James turned to a harder target: the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, a division of the U.S. Department of Defense responsible for monitoring nuclear, biological, and chemical threats. He began the same way, scanning the network, identifying exposed systems, searching for weaknesses. Inside the agency's infrastructure, he found a system running outdated software with a known vulnerability. He exploited it and installed a backdoor, gaining access to the internal network. Instead of moving aggressively, he stayed quiet. He deployed a packet sniffer, a tool designed to capture data flowing through a network. Then he waited. Over time, the program collected thousands of emails and login credentials, usernames and passwords used by agency personnel. According to reports, more than 3,000 internal communications were intercepted, some linked to sensitive military systems. Suspicious activity eventually triggered concern. Logs revealed unusual behavior, and investigators began tracking the intrusion. The scale and sophistication led officials to suspect a foreign intelligence operation. The FBI joined the case. For weeks, he remained hidden, until one moment changed everything. A single direct connection exposed his real IP address. That was enough. The FBI spent weeks tracking digital trails that jumped across countries and anonymous servers. Every lead seemed to vanish, until patterns began pointing to one place: a quiet residential address in Miami. Expecting a coordinated cyber unit or foreign intelligence team, agents prepared for a high-risk raid. Early one morning, they moved in. But what they found was unexpected. No command center, no team, just a bedroom, a desk, and a 15-year-old boy sitting at his computer. Jonathan James looked up without reacting as agents entered. No panic, no attempt to escape. Around him were computers, storage devices, and handwritten notes, meticulous records of his methods. What investigators uncovered wasn't just evidence of two massive breaches. It was proof that a single teenager, working alone from his bedroom, had penetrated some of the most sensitive government systems in the United States for weeks without being detected. The consequences were historic. Jonathan James became the first juvenile in U.S. history convicted for hacking into Pentagon systems. He was sentenced to 6 months in juvenile detention, followed by probation, and banned from recreational computer use, a heavy restriction for someone defined by technology. He cooperated fully, revealing every step of his methods. In doing so, he exposed critical vulnerabilities that official security audits had missed. His cooperation helped trigger faster system patches and major internal security reviews across multiple agencies. NASA estimated the stolen code's value at around $1.7 million. But the real impact was deeper. Systems supporting astronaut operations and national defense had been compromised for weeks by a 15-year-old. In later years, his life grew more difficult. He was linked to an unrelated data breach, which he denied. The pressure, scrutiny, and isolation took a toll. In 2008, at just 24, Jonathan James died. The systems Jonathan James breached weren't weak by design. They were neglected. Security wasn't maintained because no one expected it to be tested. That same mistake repeats across decades. In 1999, a teenager exposed it from his bedroom. He wasn't a government or an organized threat, just curious, and every door he tried was already open. His story doesn't just ask how he got in, it asks something far more uncomfortable: why no one ever checked the locks.